The girl thinks she's pretty.
I agree with her. I think she's pretty too. Pretty pathetic.
Hello, my hungries. It's Miella Threescoopes, and welcome back to Milla's Talking VTubing Space. Surprise! How do you guys like the camping background and spooky atmosphere? I've been thinking, since it is spooky month, I wouldn't mind reacting to some horror stories that have taken place within the VTuber community. And when I say horror, I mean people who have been openly exposed to be some of the most heinous people to have ever entered the VTuber space. Such as Yakirisu, for example. Who remembers that land shark VTuber? Or better known as the Garchomp-loving VTuber. For those who don't know, in May of 2023, she ceased streaming following allegations from multiple people she knew of manipulative and abusive behavior. At least that's what I'm reading off of Wikipedia, but those allegations proved to be pretty true. She was also very open to sharing cosplaying content, and she pretty much fell into this category of, I'm an attractive girl, I can literally get away with anything. Yeah, it doesn't always work that way. Thus, her whole entire online career was destroyed. Rightfully so. I only remember some of the most crucial details, but I've never actually watched a full video on it. So let's kick back and relax, listening to this horror unfolding. Hopefully this is new to you, and if it's not, well, let's reminisce some of the horror. This is going to be the story of Yakirisu, who had earned the title of being the worst VTuber. I can't really say that's an understatement because she was a rising star in the VTuber community before. Now let's click play. I'm moving my mousey mouse.
The VTuber community has been a rapidly rising juggernaut in the content creation space in the 2020s. While the technology has existed for years, it's seen a huge rise in prominence thanks to the Cover Corporation and Hololive Productions' expansion into English VTubing.
Oh yeah!
While I have mixed feelings about the genre and content, it's at least more neutral now than it was previously. But an underlying issue with the concept of VTubing is that in a sea of cute anime girls, bad actors are bound to blend into the community and appear inconspicuous, despite the disturbing truth of the person behind the model. Of course, the easy joke to make here is that the cute anime VTuber is actually a middle-aged man in disguise, but somehow...
Sometimes I wonder if that's where it came from, where people are always tossing accusations like, oh no, the one behind the VTuber model is actually a dude. Is this where it stems from? Feel free to tell me if that's the reason. Wonder if that's where it stems from. I'm always seeing that circulating around in the VTuber space. I'm like, who is this? I don't know. I wonder how long ago this happened. Maybe quite some time ago? I'm not sure.
How the story behind our subject today is much, much worse. Yakirisu, often referred to as simply Yaki, is, or should I say was, an up-and-coming content creator online, primarily known for her VTuber streams and content, but is also known to a lesser extent for her cosplays. Yaki would often adopt her VTuber persona when she appeared in content on the YouTuber AlphaRad's channel. Yes, that AlphaRad. And just when it looked like her career as a content creator had just begun to pick up steam, all that momentum was lost when on May 30th of 2023, content creator Deputy Aruuu and editor/public figure Ultima came out with a joint Google Doc telling their experiences behind the scenes with Yakirisu. Their document being published was the catalyst for many other individuals coming forward and writing their own Google Docs, giving their own unpleasant histories with Yakirisu.
I remember hearing about that.
Into a complete storm of allegations, forming a laundry list of unsavory things Yaki has done in the past. And that spiraled into an entire hate campaign raging on Twitter, which grew so large that even people who weren't even aware of who Yakirisu was to begin with began to take notice and comment on the situation.
Bruh.
Is this real? What the heck? Oh my goodness, that's disgusting. Ew. Oh, now that's some real horror right there. I would not take a shower in there. Oh my goodness.
By the end of it, there were a total of 11 Google Docs written and involved in the situation, coming from an assortment of people online, with pretty much every Google Doc having similar themes of manipulation, abuse, and pettiness throughout. And some of these Google Docs get long. So we certainly have our work cut out for us today. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let me show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is the story of the world's worst VTuber.
The world's worst VTuber. For our case, it's a horror story. Case 1, Yakirisu.
Before
Ooh.
we dive in,
Ooh, that starts off with some mystery dungeon music. I recognize that right off the bat. I'm liking this already.
to the 11 Google Docs, we must first establish their subject and the subject of this very video. Mary is a Lithuanian-American woman from Michigan, and as we'll come to find out, has gone by quite a few aliases online. But she is best known under the pseudonym of Yakirisu, often shortened to Yaki, and sometimes remixed into new but familiar names. In March of 2019, she would create her Twitter account under the handle @Yakirisu with 2 U's. The account that would end up becoming her most popular one. According to Yaki herself, she also began cosplaying in 2019, with cosplaying becoming what she was best known for and what grew her follower base on social media. Soon after she created her Twitter, she would go on to create her Twitch and YouTube accounts, as she wanted to start streaming as well. Over the course of 2019, she would build a pretty respectable following for herself, having a nice 14,000 followers for herself only a year after making her debut. That's nothing to sneeze at. And her Twitch numbers, for someone just starting out, aren't half bad either. And with this influx of new followers, why not take the opportunity to cozy up with some of your new mutuals and start building connections with people? Although the outcome of that will be discussed later on in this video. However, this growth would soon peter out as she suddenly stopped streaming and would rarely put out a cosplay. This can clearly be indicated with the huge hiatus in streams seen on Twitch Tracker, as well as her stagnant follower growth on Social Blade. It's unclear as to why Yaki stopped posting content online, especially since, according to her significant other at the time, she wasn't employed at the time and was mostly relying on her partner's income. Whatever the case may be, this hiatus was broken with the beginning of 2022, as she began getting back into content creation, both in terms of cosplays and streaming, and soon after began streaming as a PNG tuber, although claimed she was a VTuber in her titles and tags for some reason. And just in time too, as the connections she made in the past led her to making connections with very popular creators. This would give her a nice bump in attention and notoriety thanks to her association with them. Her growth was more gradual and steady initially, but in November, she made her debut as a proper VTuber with a model and everything. Her official debut as a VTuber garnered Yaki a lot of attention, and took her growth from modest and steady to her now gaining thousands of followers each month. And around this time, she began appearing as a guest in Alpharat's content. Getting her name out there in content by a creator as popular as him no doubt contributed to the increasingly fast growth Yaki was having at the time. Yaki was picking up some serious momentum, and at the rate she was gaining followers, Yaki was poised to end up with at least 100,000 Twitch followers by the end of 2023. And Yaki also took the opportunity to expand her content onto YouTube as well, with her creating videos and shorts that she fashioned out of her content from her streams. And these videos performed very well for themselves, with her first YouTube short having an entire 1 million views to its name. And while her 2 other shorts weren't nearly as popular, 370k are certainly large view counts. Shorts aside, she was also beginning to hire editors to create fully edited, long-form YouTube videos out of her stream content, with her 2 videos currently sitting at a pretty 274k and 135,000 views respectively. For her first videos on YouTube, that's incredibly solid. Most YouTubers' first videos don't have nearly that amount of views.
Nope.
With all of these factors into consideration, Yaki was bound to be a popular creator herself by the year's end, and be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with her content creator peers. With growth like this and friends like Alpharad, Yaki's career was pretty much cemented. What could possibly go wrong?
Let the horror begin! Before I do, I will say this though. It really did disappoint me more so that she was really into playing Pokemon. I don't get to see a lot of VTubers who are into playing Pokemon, making it one of their main niches even. Yeah. Case 2.
The first Google Doc exposing Yaki dropped on May 30th of this year, with it containing the accounts of Ultima Shadow X, or simply Ultima, as well as Deputy Aruuu. Not only were they the first ones to tell their stories, both of them appear to have been affected most recently by Yaki. We'll begin with Ultima's story, and move on to Aruu's afterwards. Ultima works as an editor behind the scenes for YouTubers, with him working with such notable creators as Matt McMuscles, Vernius, and the VTuber Henya the Genius, as well as Alpharad. What a coincidence. Ultima and Yaki had been friends for well over 4 years, but after she broke up with her significant other in 2022, she began facing some dire financial issues as she returned from a trip to her significant other absent and a mortgage she could not shoulder. Yaki begged Ultima to move in with her so she wouldn't lose her house, which he agreed to because of their history. Yaki later claims that this arrangement was mutually beneficial and that Ultima was looking to move out of his place anyways. However, Ultima contests this, stating that he wasn't looking to move at all and simply did so to help her out. In the beginning, things were peachy between Ultima, Yaki, and her new boyfriend Ruby, but after the first few months, things turned sour. Yaki began becoming more and more aggressive towards Ultima. Ultima's account of his experience states that she would verbally abuse him for some of the slightest inconveniences, particularly with getting him to pipe down. It's something that is focused a lot in Ultima's story, as the house they shared had thin walls. Apparently, they must have had paper-thin walls though, because if he would make any noise while she was streaming, even just whispers, she would berate him over it, ultimately resulting in one particular instance where she came into his room and yelled at him for, quote, ruining her content. She would also strong-arm him into paying for stuff on her behalf often, notably the gas for his car, which, despite belonging to him, Yaki was the only person who would actually ever use it.
Well, isn't this a fun way to treat someone who you begged to help pay your bills? That's just pathetic. I can't. I don't know how long he put up with her, but my goodness. If it were me, I would have left a long time ago. No, this is real horror right here. Seriously, just imagine yourself in that type of situation where you feel like, oh, if you were to leave, this person will lose their house, but you can't because you have history with them. But this, I would not put up with this attitude.
The verbal abuse got so bad that he ended up confiding in Fidel, otherwise known as On the Down Low or Games Cage, about the situation. Fidel will also come to play a larger role in the story, so remember him for later. I do an entire video for her and follow her rules, and do her changes, and in her notes it's like, are you stupid? This is bad. I hate this. I said to do this. I read your notes. I did what you want. Stop treating me like I'm incompetent. I am burnt out and depressed on editing. I can barely get out of bed. I lost my main source of income. You saddle up to my boss. You tell me to pay for gas on my own car. I let you drive when I don't drive. Ultima also talked about how Yaki would use her connections with larger creators, in particular her close friendship with Alfarad, and hold it over Ultima's head as a means of silencing him. I try to handle this quietly. She will gossip. She will ruin my career. I am scared of that. All because I wanted to help. Ultima would later add an instance where Yaki threatened him if she found out he was talking about what was happening, stating ominously that they would have problems. It's always great to see people weaponize their friendships with larger creators against others. As we can see from her channel, Yaki's quite the fan of Pokemon, so it should come as no surprise to find out that her treatment of her pets is less than stellar. According to
As someone who loves to play Pokemon games herself, oh my.
Ultima, he was the one left with the responsibility of taking care of them, feeding them, cleaning up after them, and so on. Yaki would have the cats locked in the bathroom for over half a day and would tell Ultima not to let them out. Also,
excuse me? That is unacceptable. Excuse me, as someone who owns a cat, you should never do that. What the heck?
If you're curious, this is what her bathroom looked like.
We saw an image of that.
Now, for reference, here's what Chris Chan's bathroom looks like. That's really all that needs to be said. Funnily enough, in her response, Yaki unintentionally corroborated this claim, referring to this as putting them in, quote, gay baby jail. Cute. The worst of it happened during Yaki's recent trip to LA, as one of her cats at home had become terribly ill, so much that it was unable to walk. While Yaki extended her stay in LA for a bit longer, Ultima drove multiple hours to the vet and paid for over half the checkup and medical costs for it.
What the heck? Oh my god, what is wrong with this woman?
To which she allegedly never paid him back for. Due to the aforementioned issue about Ultima being too loud for Yaki, she suggested that the three of them look at moving into a bigger house to alleviate the issue, with Ultima and Ruby finding a place that worked for them. When Ultima, Ruby, and Yaki, with the help of Ultima's dad, went to apply for a loan for the house though, she refused to become co-owner to the loan, citing her mortgage on their current house. As Ultima states, she had been making funny little jokes about moving to LA to be closer to Alfred's group of friends, and if she ever went through with that, which is highly likely if her streaming career kicked off, then she'd abandon Ultima with a loan that he couldn't pay.
Oh, heck no! You suggest getting a house and then you refuse to partake in the responsibility of paying for it? What sort of self-privileged world were you born in? My goodness! If this isn't real horror, I can't imagine living with someone like this. This is just pure horror in real life. In an everyday sort of life, this is pure horror. My goodness.
Thankfully, because of her flakiness, everyone backed out. In addition to working as an editor for other creators, Ultima also offered Yaki to help her out with editing a couple of her YouTube videos as well. These experiences, however, were hellish for Ultima. As he explains, anytime I would submit a video to her for revision, I would just be treated like a total idiot. Things like, why would you do this? Or, you just don't get it. Or, this is baffling. What were you thinking? And it made me very upset, as I was burnt out and barely motivated to work as it is. Of note is that within an Imgur album containing screenshots on Discord between Yaki and Ultima, all of these screenshots, save for one from May, that is completely unrelated and isn't about anything, although is very ominous given the is everything okay and the kinda, not really, and the 2-hour call that happened afterwards are from January and February of 2023. Considering that the 2 videos Ultima edited for Yaki came out on February 16th and May 8th, this leaves us with an entire 2 to 3 months of correspondence unaccounted for in this album, supposedly refuting the claim that she was abusive towards Ultima. And, you know, call it a hunch, but I don't think the messages from that time frame were quite as easy to chalk up to simple disagreements as the screenshots attached are. Or the really bad shit could have just happened in real life or over Discord calls. That's also just as likely. While we're on that topic, let's switch gears into Aruu's testimony. Aruuu is a content creator online with a primary focus on Twitch streaming, but also dabbles in some VTubing and cosplay as well, which is what her and Yaki have in common. How Aruuu and Yaki came to know each other, though, was through their mutual association with Fidel. I mentioned him not too long ago. He's a streamer and content creator himself, and you might be familiar with him. He trends on Twitter semi-frequently from time to time. Fidel and Aruuu are close friends and were once a couple, as she explained in her doc, although the relationship stopped shortly after December of last year. Things just weren't quite working out between them romantically, and they have remained close friends to this day. Yaki, on the other hand, has a checkered past with Fidel. They were good friends for a while, and Fidel helped Yaki out and gave her advice when she began streaming in 2022. But her feelings towards Fidel soured as time passed. She began to hold a serious grudge against Fidel, believing that he was actively trying to sabotage her streaming career by specifically having their streams overlap so he could attract viewers away from her streams and throttle her growth. These feelings are largely a conspiracy theory that she made herself believe because Fidel had a minor issue with her self-promoting in his chat and Discord. This can be confirmed with DMs Yaki later leaked in a response where she basically verbatim states this. Not to be a tease, but I'll delve more into this later on in this video. But what's important to know is that Yaki really doesn't like Fidel, and when she noticed that Aruuu and Fidel broke up, she began to slide into Aruu's DMs to, in effect, manipulate Aruuu into turning against Fidel. To quote Aruuu directly, "It ended up with her calling me and telling me he cheated on me, and since she had no reason to lie to me, or so I thought, I believed her. She also told me that he would say awful things about me behind my back for the past 2 years he's known me, and that he actively would sabotage my career. Because she was very close to Fidel, I had no reason not to believe her." Yaki used this opportunity to try and get Aruuu to move away from Fidel's friend group and try and move into hers. Aruuu described her introduction into the friend group to basically be a way for her to secretly humiliate Aruuu to her friend group behind her back, and as a vehicle for her vitriolic rhetoric about Fidel. And this ultimately culminated in a trip that the group took to LA in order to spend time together, which I mentioned not too long ago. At least, that's what it was supposed to be, till Yaki started pulling some strings. In March, Aruuu, Yaki, and their mutual friend Izzy planned to hang out together to celebrate Izzy's birthday in LA, which coincided with other events that the three all intended to attend. Despite Aruuu paying out of her own pocket for this trip, she spent almost the entire trip being outcast from every social gathering during this trip.
Yikes.
All the while, Yaki would basically lie and defame Aruuu and Fidel to everyone else. Yaki was able to do this because she managed to lie about both of them in order to convince everyone not to invite them, like saying that Aruuu made Alpharad uncomfortable, and saying that if Fidel and Alpharad were in the same place, it would blow up. Shit that was so blown out of proportion that it borderlines on complete lies. To be specific, Aruuu had been uninvited from a dinner with Alpharad's friend group, a brunch the following day, a trip to the aquarium, and her own friend Izzy's birthday party. In particular, that last instance resulted in Aruuu being given an incorrect address that took her to a completely different side of LA, and when Aruuu called her friends asking for them to come get her, Yaki was allegedly calling Aruuu passive-aggressive for being scared that she was completely stranded alone in LA in the middle of the night.
Excuse me? Who wouldn't be worried in a situation like that? This woman is completely psychotic. A real horror. My god. You know, the fact that we're only 16 minutes and 48 seconds into this video, it's 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 44 seconds. Like I said, I've only heard about the crucial details, but I have never looked into it this deep before, so this is all new to me. How are you guys liking it so far? Are you enjoying the horror, so to speak? I will definitely continue this another day, but for now, let's stop at the 16-minute and 48-second mark, shall we? Let's take a breather. Let me know what your thoughts are on this so far. The spookiness will continue. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is my Threescoopes, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next part. Blah, blah, blah. Bye-bye! By the way, do you like marshmallows or s'mores?